You find yourself adrift, a speck of consciousness in an immeasurable, inky blackness. This isn't just dark, it's a profound, cosmic nothingness, stretching further than any mind can conceive. There are no stars, no planets, no familiar whispers of wind or water. This is none, the primordial chaotic waters that existed before anything, a vast, indifferent ocean of unformed possibility. Imagine trying to swim in that kind of soup. No up, no down, just an endless, lukewarm slosh. You'd probably get really bored, really fast. But then, out of this boundless, featureless expanse, a stirring begins. It's not a tremor or a ripple, more like an insistent hum, a deep vibration from within the very fabric of the void. And from this singular, self-generated impulse, a mound of earth, the Ben stone, rises from the waters. This isn't just any old dirt. This is the primeval hill, the first solid ground in all of existence. Think of it as the universe's first, very lumpy, emergent island. And atop this sacred mound, the first god, Atum, brings himself into being. Atum, the self-created one, stands alone. He is the totality, the potential for all that will ever be, yet utterly solitary. He needs company, and more importantly, he needs to kickstart the whole creation thing. So, in a rather unconventional act of self-procreation, and honestly, who are we to judge ancient deities on their personal habits? Atum spits, or sneezes, or perhaps even, generates his children from his own essence. He produces Shu, the god of air, and Tefnut, the goddess of moisture. You can almost feel the fresh breeze and the dampness in the air as they materialize. These two, Shu and Tefnut, are the first divine couple, and they bring with them the fundamental elements of the cosmos. Shu, with his outstretched arms, lifts the sky, separating it from the earth, while Tefnut provides the vital moisture that allows life to flourish. Their existence marks the first proper division, the initial step away from none's undifferentiated void. Suddenly, there's a bit of headroom, a sense of space that wasn't there before. Now, Shu and Tefnut, being gods and all, quickly get busy. They give birth to Geb, the earth god, and Nut, the sky goddess. Geb lies supine, forming the very ground beneath your feet, while Nut arches gracefully over him, her starry body forming the celestial dome. This is a classic, enduring image in Egyptian mythology. The earth and sky locked in an eternal embrace, only separated by their father, Shu, who tirelessly holds Nut aloft. Historians still argue whether this separation was a benevolent act to allow space for creation or a more forceful division to prevent constant chaos. It's almost like a divine intervention in a cosmic sibling squabble. This core family, Atum, Shu, Tefnut, Geb, and Nut, lays the groundwork for the world as the Egyptians understood it. You can practically feel the solid ground beneath you, thanks Geb, and the vast, open sky above, a nod to Nut. This orderly arrangement, rising from the formless chaos, is a testament to the Egyptian belief in the power of divine intention to shape reality. They didn't see the universe as a random accident. They saw it as a meticulously crafted design, even if the family dynamics were a bit peculiar. This initial emergence from none is a mainstream historical fact in terms of understanding the primary Egyptian creation myth. But here's a quirky tidbit. Some texts suggest Atum created his children by masturbating. Yes, you read that right. The divine act of self-pleasure is literally the origin point for the universe in some ancient Egyptian narratives. It puts a whole new spin on the phrase, doing it yourself, doesn't it? It highlights how different ancient cosmologies were from modern sensibilities, where such an act would typically be relegated to the realm of not-for-polite dinner conversation. The creation process wasn't a one-and-done deal. The Egyptians believed in a continuous process of creation and recreation, with the primordial waters of Nun always lurking at the edges of the ordered world, a constant threat of regression into chaos. This is why the sun god, who you'll meet soon enough, had such a vital role in his daily journey across the sky and through the underworld. He was actively maintaining order, pushing back against the ever-present possibility of the universe dissolving back into the original cosmic slosh. It's like being a superhero, but your arch-nemesis is pure existential dread. So, you have the Ben Mound, the first land, emerging from the primeval waters of Nun. Atum, the self-created, manifests upon it. From him spring Shu, air, and Tefnut, moisture. They, in turn, give birth to Geb, earth, and Nut, sky. This initial family unit forms the basic structure of the cosmos, providing the space and elements necessary for life to unfold. It's an elegant, if slightly incestuous family tree that literally grounds their entire worldview. Every time you take a breath, you're experiencing Shu. Every drop of dew, Tefnut. Every solid step, Geb. And every gaze at the heavens, Nut. Their presence is interwoven into the very fabric of existence. From the primal embrace of Geb and Nut, the next generation of gods emerges, and with them, the stage is set for the epic dramas that will define Egyptian mythology. These are the children of earth and sky, and they form the core of what the Egyptians called the Ennead, a grouping of 9 foundational deities. If Atum was the solo artist, the Ennead is definitely the supergroup. First, there's Osiris, the eldest and perhaps the most significant of the siblings. He is the god of vegetation, the underworld, and ultimately, resurrection. Imagine a wise, benevolent king, always thinking of his people, bringing civilization to a wild, untamed land. He's the kind of guy who'd show up to a party with a perfectly curated cheese board and a detailed historical anecdote. With him, you enter a golden age. Osiris teaches humanity agriculture, how to cultivate the fertile lands along the Nile, and the art of brewing beer, a truly essential life skill even for the ancients. He introduces laws and justice, bringing order where there was once only instinct. Under his reign, Egypt flourishes, a testament to his wisdom and his calm, guiding hand. Then there's Isis, his devoted sister and wife. She is the goddess of magic, motherhood, healing, and funerary rites. If Osiris is the steady hand of governance, Isis is the nurturing heart and the keen mind. She's often depicted with wide, protective wings, symbolizing her boundless maternal love and her powerful magical abilities. You can almost feel the warmth radiating from her, a comforting presence in a world that's still finding its feet. She's the ultimate problem solver, the one you call when everything else has gone sideways. Next, you encounter Seth, the chaotic, fiery brother. He is the god of deserts, storms, disorder, and foreign lands. He's the antithesis of Osiris, often depicted with an animal head, perhaps an aardvark or an unknown Seth animal. Historians still argue whether this was a real creature or a mythical composite. Seth is powerful, unpredictable, and prone to violent outbursts. He's the wild card in the family, the one who always wants to stir things up. And frankly, you probably wouldn't want to be seated next to him at a family dinner. He embodies the destructive forces of nature, the harshness of the desert wind contrasting with the fertile Nile. And then there's Nephthys, the youngest sister, often overlooked, but no less important. She is the goddess of death, lamentation, rivers, and embalming. She is sometimes described as the mistress of the house, and her presence completes the core quartet that will drive much of the mythological narrative. She's often seen as a protective figure, especially for the dead, a quiet, steadfast presence who offers solace in times of grief. She's the one who understands the delicate balance between life and death. Finally, we have the fifth member. Though often grouped with the Ennead, his origins are a bit more complex. Horus the Elder. While the more famous Horus, son of Osiris and Isis, will play a starring role later, this earlier iteration is sometimes identified as a sky god, associated with the sun and moon as his eyes. However, for simplicity and narrative flow, the focus often shifts to the four primary siblings, Osiris, Isis, Seth, and Nephthys, as they are the ones who truly set the mythological wheels in motion. So you have Osiris, the king of order and civilization, Isis, the magical nurturing queen, Seth, the embodiment of chaos and disruption, and Nephthys, the quiet observer and protector of the dead. This family unit is brimming with potential for both harmony and discord. You can almost sense the tension building, particularly between Osiris and Seth. It's like a classic family drama, but with divine powers and the fate of the cosmos hanging in the balance. Osiris, as the first benevolent ruler, sets about civilizing the world. He brings laws, agriculture, and religious rituals to humanity. He teaches people how to stop being scattered hunter-gatherers and start living in settled communities, planting crops and building structures. It's like he's running a Divine Civilization 101 class. He's so good at it that he even travels the world, spreading his knowledge and the gifts of civilization to other lands, leaving Isis to rule in his stead. This kind of global goodwill tour was quite the undertaking back then. No private jets, just a lot of walking and divine persuasion. Meanwhile, Seth, simmering with jealousy and resentment, watches his brother's success. He sees Osiris's popularity, his orderly reign, and probably thinks, well, I could do that, but with more storms and less farming. He represents the wild, untamed aspects of Egypt, the harsh desert contrasting with the fertile Nile Valley that Osiris has brought under control. The Egyptians understood this dual nature of their land, the life-giving Nile and the menacing desert, and Seth perfectly embodies that dangerous, unpredictable force. Historians still debate whether Seth was always inherently evil, or if his malevolence developed in opposition to Osiris's absolute goodness, reflecting the necessary balance between order and chaos in the universe. It's a bit like wondering if a mischievous younger sibling is born that way, or if they're just reacting to being overshadowed by their older brother. This early period of the Ennead's existence lays the groundwork for all subsequent Egyptian mythology. It establishes the key players, their relationships, and the fundamental dichotomy between order, Mahat, and chaos, Isfet. The Egyptians believed that the universe was in a constant struggle between these two forces, and the actions of the gods directly influenced this cosmic balance. Every good harvest, every calm day on the Nile was a testament to the gods of order. Every drought, every sandstorm, a reminder of the chaotic forces at play. It's a high-stakes game of cosmic tug-of-war, and you, as the observer, are about to witness the moment the rope snaps. The golden age under Osiris, while beautiful, was never destined to last. As you observe, the tranquil peace is merely the calm before the storm, a setup for one of the most pivotal and enduring myths in Egyptian lore, the betrayal of Osiris by Seth. Osiris, ever the benevolent ruler, had brought civilization to Egypt, teaching his people the arts of agriculture, law, and even the sacred rituals. He had journeyed abroad, spreading his wisdom, and returned to a kingdom that adored him. He was literally Mr. Popularity. Seth, on the other hand, was the simmering cauldron of envy and resentment. He saw his brother's success as a personal affront, a spotlight stolen from his own wild, unpredictable nature. Imagine being the older brother who gets all the accolades, while you, the younger, feel perpetually overshadowed. That's Seth, but with superpowers and a serious anger management problem. Seth, driven by his consuming jealousy, devises a cunning and cruel plot. He secretly obtains the precise measurements of Osiris's body and commissions a magnificent, elaborately decorated chest, a sarcophagus, but not just any sarcophagus. This chest is so beautiful, so exquisitely crafted, that it would make even the most discerning pharaoh envious. It's a true work of art, designed to hide a truly heinous intent. He then hosts a lavish banquet, inviting Osiris and a host of other gods and dignitaries. The hall is filled with laughter, music, and the clinking of goblets. It's a grand affair, a scene of revelry and camaraderie. But beneath the surface, a chilling plan is unfolding. At the height of the festivities, Seth brings out the magnificent chest, boasting of its beauty and offering it as a gift to anyone who can fit perfectly inside. This is where the trick comes in. One by one, the guests try their luck, squeezing into the chest, but it's either too long, too short, or too narrow for them. It's like a macabre game of musical chairs, but instead of chairs, it's a death trap. You can almost hear the awkward coughs and murmurs of discomfort as each god fails the fit test. Finally, it is Osiris's turn. With a good-natured smile, perhaps a bit of a chuckle at the silliness of the game, he lies down within the ornate chest. And of course, being custom-made for him, he fits perfectly. The moment he is inside, Seth and his co-conspirators, often depicted as 72 evil deities or mere mortal accomplices, slam the lid shut, sealing it with molten lead. The festive atmosphere instantly shatters, replaced by horror and panicked shouts. The chest, now a sealed coffin, is then thrown into the Nile. It floats downstream, carrying the body of the once great ruler. The Egyptians believed that the Nile was the source of all life, but in this instance, it becomes the silent accomplice to a heinous act of death. This act of dismemberment and scattering of a body is a recurrent motif in ancient cultures, often symbolizing the breaking of cosmic order or the disruption of life itself. The Nile, usually a symbol of bounty, now carries a symbol of betrayal. The land of Egypt, once thriving under Osiris's benevolent rule, immediately descends into chaos and mourning. The fertile fields begin to wither, the harmonious order he established starts to unravel, and a profound sadness blankets the earth. This catastrophic event marks a turning point, ushering in an era of disorder and sorrow. The absence of Osiris is keenly felt, like a fundamental chord missing from the universe's symphony. This story of Osiris's betrayal is not just a myth, it's a foundational narrative for the Egyptian understanding of death, resurrection, and the cycle of life. It's a mainstream historical fact that this myth served as the cornerstone for their funerary practices and their beliefs about the afterlife. The death of Osiris symbolized the annual dying of the crops, the retreat of the Nile flood, and the inevitable cycle of decay that precedes new growth. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some versions of the myth suggest that Seth didn't just trick Osiris into the chest. In older, more obscure texts, there are hints of a more direct, violent confrontation, or even a hunting accident orchestrated by Seth before the chest came into play. These alternative narratives, while not as widely popular as the chest story, show the fluidity and evolution of myths over time. It's like finding a director's cut of a movie that changes everything you thought you knew about the plot. Historians still argue whether the Osiris myth reflects an actual historical event, perhaps the assassination of an early king, or if it was purely an allegorical tale designed to explain natural phenomena and the universal human experience of death and rebirth. Regardless, its impact on Egyptian culture was undeniable. It shaped their religious beliefs for thousands of years, influencing everything from the construction of tombs to the elaborate rituals performed for the dead. The story of Osiris's betrayal serves as a stark reminder that even in a divinely ordered world, chaos and evil can find a foothold. And as you watch the sealed chest drift away, you know that the journey has just begun, and the greatest act of devotion is yet to come. As the sealed chest containing Osiris drifts silently down the Nile, a profound sorrow grips the land. But amidst the widespread grief and despair, one figure stands resolute, her determination burning brighter than any star in the night sky. This is Isis, the devoted wife and sister, whose heart is shattered, but whose spirit remains unbroken. You feel her profound anguish, a sorrow so deep it resonates through the very air, but also her unwavering resolve. There's no time for despair. There's only time for action. Isis, with her extraordinary magical powers and boundless love, immediately sets out on a desperate quest to find her lost husband. She doesn't wallow in self-pity or wait for someone else to act. This is a divine rescue mission of the highest order. She wanders far and wide, traversing the length and breadth of Egypt, often disguised as an old woman, asking everyone she meets for news of the chest. She's tenacious, relentless, like a cosmic detective on an impossible case. She even asks children, as they often notice things adults overlook, and their innocent observations help guide her. It's a testament to the power of a loving heart, even a divine one, to drive such an exhaustive search. Her search eventually leads her to the distant land of Byblos, in what is now modern-day Lebanon. Here, the story takes a truly peculiar turn. The chest, containing Osiris, had washed ashore and become embedded in the roots of a magnificent tamarisk tree. This tree, nourished by the divine essence within, grew with astonishing speed, enveloping the coffin completely within its trunk. The tree became so large and fragrant that the local king, Malkanda, and queen, Astarte, marveled at it. They had the tree cut down and fashioned into a grand pillar for their palace. Imagine, the very pillar holding up their royal roof contained the body of a god. It's a prime example of the interconnectedness of the divine and the mundane in Egyptian thought. Isis, guided by divine intuition, arrives in Byblos and senses her husband's presence within the pillar. She takes on the guise of an old nursemaid, humbly seeking employment at the royal court. Her true identity, of course, remains hidden. She becomes the nurse to the queen's son, Prince Dictys, and through her subtle use of magic, she begins to reveal her true nature. She places the prince's finger into a flame at night, not to harm him, but to purge him of his mortal elements and grant him immortality. This is a common motif in mythology, a goddess attempting to make a mortal immortal, usually with surprising or dangerous results. One night, the queen discovers Isis performing this ritual and, terrified, cries out, breaking the spell. Isis, thus revealed, sheds her disguise and reveals her divine form, radiating immense power. The king and queen, awestruck and terrified, beg for her forgiveness and offer her anything she desires. Isis, ever focused on her mission, asks only for the pillar containing her husband. They, of course, grant her wish. With the pillar in her possession, Isis carefully extracts the coffin from within the tree. She then returns to Egypt, bringing the body of Osiris back to their homeland. You can almost feel the collective sigh of relief from the land as its rightful king returns, even in death. However, her journey is far from over. She takes the chest to a secluded marshy area, intent on performing the necessary rituals to resurrect him. But before she can complete her work, tragedy strikes again. Seth, ever vigilant in his malice, discovers the chest. In a fit of rage and twisted satisfaction, he dismembers Osiris's body into 14, or sometimes 16 or 42, depending on the tradition, pieces, and scatters them throughout Egypt. This act of dismemberment is more than just murder. It's an act of utter annihilation, an attempt to erase Osiris completely and prevent any chance of his return. It's a symbolic act of ultimate chaos, contrasting sharply with Osiris's earlier work of bringing order. Isis, heartbroken but undeterred, embarks on her second, even more arduous quest. This time, she is accompanied by her loyal sister, Nephthys, and the jackal-headed god Anubis, who will later become the god of embalming and guide of souls. Together, they scour every corner of Egypt, searching for each scattered piece of Osiris. It's like a divine scavenger hunt, but with far more dire consequences. They traverse deserts, explore hidden caves, and plumb the depths of the Nile. Each retrieved piece is carefully guarded, representing a step closer to restoration. This incredible journey of Isis, her steadfast love, and her magical prowess in reassembling Osiris's body, with the exception of his phallus, which was swallowed by a fish and had to be magically recreated, is a cornerstone of Egyptian funerary beliefs. It's a mainstream historical fact that this myth directly informed the practice of mummification, as Egyptians believed that just as Osiris was reassembled and resurrected, so too could they be. Here's a quirky tidbit. The specific number of pieces Osiris was cut into varied greatly across different ancient Egyptian texts. While 14 is common, some sources list 16, and others even 42, which corresponds to the number of nomes, administrative districts, in ancient Egypt. This variation suggests that the myth evolved over time, possibly reflecting local traditions and the political geography of the land. It's a bit like different towns having slightly different versions of the same local legend. Historians still argue whether the dismemberment of Osiris and his subsequent reassembly was an older, more primal myth related to fertility cycles and the annual flooding of the Nile, later refined and moralized into a narrative of good versus evil. Regardless of its precise origins, Isis's journey embodies perseverance, unwavering love, and the triumph of order over chaos, setting the stage for the ultimate reckoning. Her success in gathering the pieces is a testament to the power of ritual and the belief that even in the face of ultimate destruction, restoration is possible. With Osiris reassembled, albeit in a mummified state, thanks to Isis's unwavering devotion and the aid of Nephthys and Anubis, the narrative shifts from recovery to retribution. Though Osiris cannot return to the land of the living as its king, his spiritual essence is preserved and a profound purpose remains: to sire an avenger. Through powerful magic, Isis conceives a son with the resurrected yet deceased Osiris. This miraculous conception is a cornerstone of the myth, highlighting Isis's mastery over life and death and setting the stage for the next crucial chapter. You can almost feel the sacred energy humming around her as she performs this incredible feat, breathing life into what was lost. This child, born in secret amidst the papyrus marshes of the Nile Delta, hidden from the watchful, jealous eye of Seth, is Horus. He is often depicted as a falcon, or a man with a falcon's head, symbolizing his soaring vision and fierce predatory nature. He is the legitimate heir to Osiris's throne, a beacon of hope for a land plunged into chaos. Isis, now a protective mother, as well as a grieving widow, dedicates herself to raising him in secret, shielding him from Seth's malevolence. She teaches him the ways of the gods, instilling in him the knowledge of his birthright and the destiny that awaits him, to avenge his father and reclaim the rightful rule of Egypt. You imagine tiny Horus learning to fight, to hunt, his eyes fixed on the distant horizon, dreaming of justice. As Horus matures into a powerful young god, the time for reckoning finally arrives. He steps forward to challenge Seth for the throne of Egypt. This is not a polite debate. This is an epic, prolonged struggle between order and chaos, legitimacy and usurpation, fertility and barrenness. Their conflict is one of the most famous and fiercely depicted in Egyptian mythology, lasting for 80 years, a divine saga of cunning, brutality, and magical duels. It's like the longest, most dramatic courtroom drama, except the court is the entire cosmos, and the legal system involves shape-shifting and magical attacks. The disputes are often brought before the Ennead, the council of gods who judge their claims. You watch as they argue, present evidence, and perform incredible feats of magic. The gods themselves are divided. Some, like the sun god Ra, or Re, initially favor Seth, seeing his strength and wild nature as beneficial to the cosmic order, or perhaps simply being weary of the prolonged conflict. Others, particularly Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing, and Isis, tirelessly champion Horus's cause, reminding the council of Seth's treachery and Horus's legitimate claim as Osiris's son. It's a truly divine bureaucracy, complete with endless arguments and occasional divine tantrums. Their battles are legendary. They shapeshift into various animals, Horus as a falcon, Seth as a hippopotamus or a serpent, engaging in brutal physical combat. Horus often loses an eye in these battles, which is later restored by Thoth or Hathor, becoming the famous Eye of Horus, a powerful symbol of protection and royal power. Seth, in turn, is often castrated or otherwise maimed. These injuries are not just physical, they are symbolic of the cosmic imbalances created by their conflict. One famous incident involves Seth trying to sexually assault Horus, a dark attempt to assert dominance and further demean him, but Horus cleverly thwarts him with Isis's help, ensuring that Seth's semen enters the Nile instead of Horus, preventing any lasting shame. The conflict culminates in a decisive judgment by the great Ennead. After countless trials, tricks, and displays of divine power, the gods finally declare Horus the rightful king. Seth is ultimately defeated, stripped of his power, and banished to the harsh desert or condemned to eternal service to Ra. Sailing in the sun, gods bark to ward off chaos. This isn't a final obliteration of Seth, however. The Egyptians understood that chaos, like the desert itself, could never be fully eradicated. It could only be contained. Seth, therefore, continues to exist as a powerful, albeit subdued, force. This epic struggle between Horus and Seth is a mainstream historical fact in terms of its prominence in Egyptian religious texts and temple reliefs. It symbolizes the perpetual conflict between order, Ma'at, and disorder, Isfet, a central tenet of Egyptian worldview. Every pharaoh, when ascending the throne, took on the mantle of Horus, embodying the living king, while his deceased predecessor became Osiris, the ruler of the underworld. This myth provided the divine justification for kingship and the cyclical renewal of power. Here's a quirky tidbit. One of the most bizarre and humorous episodes in the Horus and Seth conflict involves a lettuce patch. Seth tries to poison Horus by placing his semen on a lettuce that Horus is about to eat. However, Horus is warned by Isis, who then collects Seth's semen and retaliates by placing Horus's semen on Seth's lettuce. When Seth eats it, he unknowingly ingests Horus's seed. Later, when Seth tries to prove his dominance by making a grand declaration, Thoth calls forth the semen of Horus from Seth's body, effectively proving Horus's virility and Seth's defeat. It's an oddly horticultural approach to divine rivalry, proving that even gods could get tangled up in garden variety shenanigans. Historians still argue whether the Horus-Seth myth reflects an actual political struggle in early dynastic Egypt, perhaps the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt under one ruler after a period of conflict, with Horus representing the conquering south and Seth the defeated north, or if it was purely a cosmological allegory explaining the cyclical nature of good and evil, order and chaos. Regardless, its symbolic power is immense, reminding you that even in a world ruled by gods, the path to justice is rarely straightforward and often involves a lot of divine bickering. With Horus triumphant, a new era begins, an era where the divine order is reaffirmed and the living king reigns. With Horus established as the rightful king and Seth's chaotic energies contained, the primary drama of the Ennead settles, but the Egyptian pantheon is far from complete. What you've experienced so far is just the tip of the iceberg, the central drama of the royal line. Now you broaden your perspective to encompass the incredible diversity of Egyptian deities, discovering how local cults and regional beliefs weren't just footnotes, but vibrant, essential threads in the tapestry of their religious life. It's like moving from the capital city to explore all the charming, quirky towns and villages, each with its own local hero. Think of it this way. Ancient Egypt wasn't a single, monolithic religious entity from day one. It was a collection of distinct regions, or nomes, each with its own revered animal, sacred site, and preferred deity. As these regions unified, their gods didn't vanish. They integrated, sometimes merging with other deities, a process called syncretism, sometimes maintaining their unique identities while still acknowledging the overarching state pantheon. This is a mainstream historical fact. The evolution of the Egyptian pantheon was a dynamic process, reflecting political shifts and the merging of diverse local traditions. For instance, while Ra was the supreme sun god of Heliopolis, the creator deity, he might also merge with Amun, the obscure local god of Thebes, to become Amun-Ra when Thebes rose to prominence. Amun, originally a humble air god, ascended to become one of the most powerful and widely worshipped deities, embodying the hidden creative force and often depicted with a tall feather crown. It's like a small-town celebrity suddenly becoming a global superstar, but still holding on to their roots. You can almost feel the weight of his power, a sense of unseen majesty. Then there's Thoth, the ibis-headed or baboon-headed god of wisdom, writing, magic, and the moon, revered especially in Hermopolis. He's the divine scribe, the record keeper, the one who knows all the spells and resolutions. He's probably the kind of guy who'd win every trivia night and then politely correct the host on their pronunciation. You'd certainly want him on your side during a divine court case, especially when it came to deciphering confusing ancient texts. He played a crucial role in mediating disputes and restoring Horus's eye. Or consider Hathor, the cow-headed goddess of love, joy, music, dance, motherhood, and foreign lands, particularly worshipped in Dendera. She's often depicted with cow horns, embracing a sun disk, radiating warmth and beneficence. She's the ultimate party planner and cosmic nurturer, the kind of deity who would encourage you to take a bubble bath and listen to some good tunes after a long day. Her worship was incredibly popular, offering comfort and delight in daily life. And let's not forget the multitude of other gods and goddesses who might not be part of the core Ennead, but were absolutely vital to daily life. There's Sobek, the crocodile god of the Fayum oasis, embodying the fierce power of the Nile, but also its fertility. He's often depicted with a crocodile head, and while he could be dangerous, he also symbolized protection. Imagine a deity who's both a fearsome predator and a provider of good fishing. Quite the paradox, but it makes sense when you live next to a giant river filled with them. There's Sekhmet, the lioness goddess of war, healing, and pestilence, the fierce aspect of Hathor, who could unleash plagues but also cure them. You definitely want to stay on her good side. Her fiery breath could devastate, but her gentle touch could heal. It's like the universe's most powerful and slightly terrifying doctor. And Ptah, the patron god of craftsmen and architects in Memphis, believed to have created the world through thought and speech. He's the divine artisan, the cosmic builder. You can almost hear the soft tap-tap-tap of his divine hammer as he crafts the universe into being. A quirky tidbit that illustrates this local diversity. Some minor deities were incredibly specific. For example, there was a goddess named Renenutet, who was the cobra goddess of nursing and harvest. She was believed to literally suckle newborn pharaohs and oversaw the abundance of the grain harvest. So, next time you see a cob, think of Renenutet, probably giving it a good look over. Or how about Bes, the dwarf god, usually depicted with a large head, bowed legs, and a frightening mask, but actually a benevolent protector of households, women, and childbirth, warding off evil spirits with his comical appearance. He's the guardian gnome of the Egyptian home. Historians still argue whether the proliferation of local cults ultimately strengthened or weakened the overarching state religion. Did it provide a rich, diverse tapestry of belief that allowed people to connect with the divine on a local level, or did it create a fragmented system ripe for theological disputes? It's a bit like asking if too many ice cream flavors are a good thing or a bad thing. This incredible cast of characters meant that no matter where you were in ancient Egypt, you would encounter a deity or several specific to that place, reflecting the unique characteristics and concerns of the region. The sheer volume of gods and goddesses, each with their own attributes, myths, and cult centers, demonstrates the rich and complex religious landscape of ancient Egypt. It highlights a society that saw the divine in every aspect of life, from the grand movements of the sun to the smallest details of a successful harvest or the safety of a newborn. You feel the presence of these deities everywhere, woven into the very fabric of the landscape. Having explored the vast pantheon of Egyptian gods, you now turn your attention to how these divine beings weren't just figures in grand cosmic dramas. They were intimately woven into the fabric of daily life for every ancient Egyptian. Their gods weren't distant, abstract concepts. They were active participants, affecting everything from the sunrise to the success of a harvest, from birth to death. You almost feel their presence humming in the air, a constant, comforting, and sometimes intimidating divine backdrop. Imagine waking up in ancient Egypt. As the first rays of Ra, the sun god, kiss the eastern horizon, you offer a silent prayer of thanks for the life-giving light. You know that Ra, in his solar bark, is battling the forces of chaos, specifically the monstrous serpent Apophis, to ensure the sun's daily journey. Every sunrise is a testament to divine victory, a fresh start. You might then greet the new day with a small offering at a household shrine, perhaps a sprinkle of water or a tiny incense cone, to ensure the continued blessing of your personal protective deities, like the benevolent dwarf god Bes or the hippopotamus goddess Taweret, who guarded women and childbirth. Your work, whether you're a farmer, toiling in the fields, or a craftsman shaping stone, is infused with divine significance. As you sow seeds, you invoke Osiris, the god of fertility and agriculture, hoping for a bountiful harvest. When the Nile floods, You understand it as a manifestation of Hapi, the god of the inundation, whose generosity brings life to the parched land. You might even offer a small loaf of bread or a sprig of papyrus to the river as a gesture of gratitude. It's a reciprocal relationship. Humans provide offerings and reverence, and the gods provide sustenance and order. Even mundane tasks are touched by the divine. Women might pray to Hathor for fertility or safe childbirth, and adorn themselves with amulets of her likeness. Scribes would offer prayers to Thoth for wisdom and skill in their craft, perhaps leaving a small offering at a local temple dedicated to him. Every profession had its patron deity, creating a direct, personal link between work and worship. It's like having a divine supervisor who always has your back, as long as you remember to acknowledge them. Temples weren't just places of grand ritual. They were central to community life, though access to the holiest inner sanctuaries was typically reserved for priests and pharaohs. Still, the outer courtyards and surrounding areas bustled with activity. You might bring offerings to the temple, seek advice from priests, or participate in public festivals. The smell of incense would drift from the temple walls, a constant reminder of the god's presence. It's a mainstream historical fact that temples were not just religious centers, but economic hubs, owning vast tracts of land and employing large numbers of people. They were essentially the ancient equivalent of a mega corporation, but with more gods and less stock market volatility. Disease and misfortune were often attributed to the displeasure of the gods or the influence of malevolent spirits. If you fell ill, you might consult a priest-physician who would combine practical medicine with spells and prayers to deities like Sekhmet, who could bring and cure disease, or Isis, the great healer. Magic was not seen as distinct from religion. It was a fundamental tool for interacting with the divine and manipulating the forces of the cosmos. Every spell, every amulet, was a direct attempt to harness divine power for human benefit. It's like their version of calling technical support, but with more incantations and fewer hold times. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some ancient Egyptian households kept pets, not just for companionship, but also as sacred animals representing specific deities. Cats, particularly, were highly revered as manifestations of the goddess Bastet, protectress of home and hearth. If you accidentally harmed a cat, the consequences could be severe, even death, reflecting the deep reverence for these animal embodiments of the divine. Imagine trying to explain that to your dog-loving neighbor. You'd think twice before shooing a stray cat away if you knew it might be a divine representative. Historians still argue whether the elaborate rituals and pervasive presence of the gods in daily life truly instilled a deep personal piety in the average Egyptian, or if their interactions were more pragmatic, a transactional relationship based on quid pro quo. I offer, you protect. Was it deep faith, or more like cosmic insurance? Regardless, the sheer volume of offerings, the dedication seen in tomb construction, and the consistency of religious practices over millennia suggest a profound, enduring connection between the Egyptians and their gods. Their lives were utterly intertwined with the divine, a constant dialogue between the mortal and the eternal. Every breath, every meal, every dream was a testament to the gods who shaped their world. As the sun sets and the work of the day concludes, your thoughts, like those of every ancient Egyptian, inevitably turn to the great journey that awaits beyond this life. For them, death was not an end, but a transition, a perilous voyage into the mysterious realm of the Duat, the Egyptian underworld. This wasn't just a gloomy place. It was a vibrant, often terrifying mirror world, filled with trials, monstrous guardians, and crucial opportunities for rebirth. You prepare for this spiritual odyssey, knowing that meticulous preparation in life is key to success in death. The concept of the afterlife was so central to Egyptian belief that it's a mainstream historical fact that vast resources and incredible effort were poured into funerary practices, from elaborate mummification to the construction of magnificent tombs. The goal wasn't just to preserve the body, but to protect the individual's ka, life force, and ba, personality soul, allowing them to reunite and travel through the duat to reach the blissful field of reeds. You feel the weight of this preparation, knowing your eternal destiny hinges on it. Your journey begins as the sun god, Ra, descends into the western horizon, signifying death and the start of his nightly journey through the duat. You are meant to join him, to sail in his solar bark, navigating the dark rivers and cavernous chambers of the underworld. This isn't a leisure cruise, it's a 12-hour, hour-by-hour struggle against the forces of chaos, represented most powerfully by the serpent Apophis, who tirelessly tries to devour Ra and plunge the world back into primordial darkness. Imagine trying to get through a night shift, but your co-worker is a giant, universe-devouring snake. Talk about workplace hazards. As you traverse the duat, you encounter a bewildering array of creatures and landscapes. There are lakes of fire, rivers of flame, and gates guarded by terrifying hybrid monsters with names like Eater of the Donkey or She Who Lives on Blood. Each hour of the night brought new challenges, demanding specific spells and knowledge to pass safely. The Book of the Dead, a collection of spells, hymns, and instructions, served as your ultimate travel guide and cheat sheet for this perilous journey. Without it, you'd be utterly lost, like trying to navigate a foreign city without GPS or a map. It's filled with everything from charming requests to not eat your own excrement in the afterlife, to elaborate instructions for shape-shifting into a golden falcon. Your path is fraught with obstacles. You might encounter shadowy demons trying to snare your soul, or vengeful spirits seeking to prevent your progress. The very ground could open up, threatening to swallow you whole. This wasn't just a spiritual test. It was a cosmic obstacle course designed to filter the worthy from the unworthy. The Egyptians believed that only those who lived justly and were well prepared would succeed. One of the more unique aspects of the duat is the idea of the negative confession. Before you reach the final judgment, you encounter various deities and declare your innocence from a long list of sins. It's not about confessing what you did do, but what you didn't do. I have not stolen. I have not killed. I have not told lies. It's a bit like a divine reverse psychology test, where you try to convince the gods of your goodness by denying all bad deeds. Here's a quirky tidbit. Beyond the famous Apophis, the duat was populated by some truly odd minor demons. One frequently depicted guardian had a human head, a crocodile body, and a lion's mane, ready to pounce on the unprepared. Another might have been depicted with a huge, grotesque head and tiny limbs, designed to instill terror rather than physical harm. It seems the ancient Egyptians had a vivid imagination when it came to their monstrous bureaucracy of the dead. Historians still argue whether the terrifying depictions of the Duat and its creatures were meant to literally describe a physical place, or if they were symbolic representations of the psychological and spiritual struggles one faced in overcoming fear, sin, and attachment to the earthly realm before achieving eternal bliss. Was it a literal roadmap or a spiritual allegory? Regardless, the detailed accounts of the Duat found in tomb paintings and papyri provided immense comfort and guidance to Egyptians facing death, offering a structured path through the unknown. As you journey through the dark, encountering spirits and overcoming challenges, you gain a deeper appreciation for the meticulous preparation of the Egyptians. Every amulet worn, every spell recited, every careful step of mummification was a part of this grand strategy for navigating the Duat and reaching the ultimate goal, the Hall of Two Truths, where the final judgment awaits. You push forward, knowing that the most crucial test of your eternal destiny is just ahead. After navigating the perilous landscapes and overcoming the monstrous guardians of the Duat, your journey culminates in the most solemn and significant moment of the afterlife, the Judgment Hall of Osiris, also known as the Hall of Two Truths. This is where your entire earthly existence is weighed, quite literally, against the divine order of the cosmos. You stand before a tribunal of gods, a divine jury, with Osiris, the now ruler of the underworld, presiding with serene authority. His presence is calming, yet immensely powerful. The atmosphere in the hall is hushed, pregnant with destiny. 42 divine judges, each representing a specific nome of Egypt and responsible for assessing a particular sin. Remember those negative confessions? Stand in attendance. Their watchful eyes scrutinize your every movement. This is no place for fibs or casual banter. This is the ultimate moment of truth. You can almost feel the weight of their judgment, a silence that speaks volumes. At the center of the hall stands a magnificent scale, perfectly balanced. On one side, the feather of Ma'at, the symbol of truth, justice, harmony, and cosmic order. This isn't just any feather, it's a feather imbued with the very essence of universal balance. It's delicate, yet incredibly powerful. On the other pan of the scale, your own heart is placed. Not a metaphorical heart, but the physical organ, believed by the Egyptians to be the seat of intellect, emotion, and moral character. This is why the heart was one of the few organs left in the body during mummification. It was absolutely essential for the judgment. Anubis, the jackal-headed god of mummification and the guide of souls, meticulously oversees the weighing. He carefully places the feather and your heart on the scales, his gaze piercing. It's a moment of profound tension. Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom and writing, stands ready with his palette and stylus, poised to record the outcome. He's the divine court reporter, ensuring every detail is accurately logged for eternity. You hold your breath, your very essence, resting on this delicate balance. The outcome of this weighing determines your eternal fate. If your heart is light, free from the burden of unconfessed sins and heavy deeds, it will balance perfectly with the feather of Ma'at. This signifies that you have lived a life in accordance with Ma'at, upholding justice and cosmic harmony. The gods will then declare you true of voice or justified, allowing you to pass into the blissful field of reeds, the Egyptian paradise. Imagine a tranquil, fertile landscape, an eternal version of the Nile Valley, where you are reunited with loved ones, farm abundant crops, and live in perpetual peace and joy. It's basically a divine retirement plan, but with more papyrus. However, if your heart is heavy with wrongdoing, unbalanced by sin and injustice, the scale will tip, and waiting beneath the scales, a truly terrifying creature, Amit, the devourer of the dead, stands ready. Amit is a hybrid beast, with the head of a crocodile, the body of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus, essentially all the most fearsome animals of Egypt rolled into one terrifying package. If your heart is found wanting, Amit will instantly devour it, and your soul will be eternally obliterated, denied passage into the field of reeds. This is the ultimate punishment, not hellfire, but complete non-existence. The Egyptians, who believed in the eternal cycle, saw this as the worst possible fate, a terrifying end to the very essence of who you are. This scene of the heart weighing against the feather of Ma'at is a mainstream historical fact, frequently depicted in tomb paintings, papyri, and coffins, providing clear evidence of its central role in Egyptian eschatology. It instilled a powerful moral framework, encouraging individuals to live justly and maintain Ma'at in their daily lives. Here's a quirky tidbit. While the judgment is typically depicted as a one-time event upon death, some scholars suggest that the process of achieving justification might have been viewed as an ongoing spiritual endeavor throughout life, culminating in the final weighing. The ritualistic nature of the negative confessions, in particular, points to a constant self-assessment. It's like their version of a lifelong moral compass, always pointing towards Ma'at. Historians still argue whether the emphasis on ethical conduct and the concept of a heavy heart was primarily a means of social control by the priesthood and pharaohs, ensuring obedience and order, or if it genuinely reflected a profound belief in universal moral principles that transcended mere earthly power. Was it manipulation or true piety? Regardless, the pervasive imagery of the weighing of the heart served as a powerful motivator for ethical behavior throughout ancient Egyptian society. You reflect on your own life, hoping your heart, when its time comes, will be as light as a feather. Having traversed the Duat and passed the judgment of Osiris, you now turn your gaze back to the land of the living, to the figure who served as the ultimate bridge between the mortal and the divine, the pharaoh. For the ancient Egyptians, the pharaoh wasn't just a king or a political leader. He was a living god, the embodiment of Horus on earth, and after death, he transformed into Osiris, ruler of the underworld. This dual identity made him the central pillar of Egyptian society, religion, and cosmic order. You stand in awe of this incredible claim, a living conduit to the divine. From the moment he ascended the throne, the pharaoh was considered divine. He wasn't just a chosen representative of the gods, he was a god. This concept, a divine kingship, is a mainstream historical fact, foundational to understanding ancient Egyptian civilization. His role was multifaceted and monumental. He was the chief priest of every temple, responsible for performing rituals to maintain Ma'at, the cosmic order. Without his daily offerings and prayers, the sun might not rise, the Nile might not flood, and chaos, Isfet, could overwhelm the world. Imagine having that kind of pressure on your shoulders every single morning. It's like being the CEO, head priest, and cosmic janitor, all rolled into one. The pharaoh was also the supreme military commander, protecting Egypt from foreign enemies and maintaining internal stability. He was the chief legislator, dictating laws and ensuring justice. He oversaw all major building projects, from irrigation systems to colossal temples and pyramids, each project designed to glorify the gods and ensure the prosperity of Egypt. Every granary, every tomb, every colossal statue was a testament to his divine authority and his role as the ultimate provider. His divine status was reinforced by elaborate rituals and iconography. He was often depicted wearing crowns that symbolized his dominion over Upper and Lower Egypt, adorned with the uraeus, the rearing cobra, a symbol of divine protection and royal authority. His elaborate ceremonies and appearances were designed to emphasize his uniqueness and his connection to the heavens. When you saw the pharaoh, you weren't just seeing a man, you were seeing the living manifestation of a god. Consider the construction of the pyramids. These monumental tombs, built for pharaohs like Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, were not just burial sites, they were literally cosmic staircases, designed to facilitate the pharaoh's journey to the stars and his transformation into an eternal deity alongside Ra. The sheer scale of these projects, requiring immense labor, resources, and engineering prowess, speaks volumes about the absolute belief in the pharaoh's divinity and his crucial role in the afterlife. It's a bit like building a rocket ship to the heavens, but made of millions of tons of stone. Here's a quirky tidbit. To ensure the pharaoh's continued divine presence and influence even after death, elaborate rituals were performed during his mummification. One particularly unusual practice involved the opening of the mouth ceremony, where priests would touch various implements to the mummy's mouth and eyes, ritually reanimating them so the deceased pharaoh could eat, breathe, see, and speak in the afterlife. It was less about actual breathing and more about symbolic resuscitation, allowing the deceased to fully participate in the divine realm. Historians still argue whether the pharaoh's divinity was genuinely believed by the general populace, or if it was a political construct primarily used to maintain power and social order. Was it an act of faith or an act of governance? Regardless, the concept allowed for remarkable stability and continuity in Egyptian society for millennia. The pharaoh was the pivot around which everything revolved, the indispensable link between humanity and the divine. You understand now that without the pharaoh, the very order of the universe, as the Egyptians conceived it, would unravel. His continued existence, both in life and in death, was crucial for the cosmos. Having witnessed the pharaoh's divine authority, you now delve into another pervasive and deeply integrated aspect of ancient Egyptian life: magic. For them, magic wasn't some dark, forbidden art or parlor trick. It was Heka, a fundamental force of creation, a divine power that could be harnessed by gods and skilled humans alike. It was as natural as breathing, woven into every facet of their existence, from everyday protection to the grand rituals of the afterlife. You feel the subtle hum of its presence, a tangible force in the air. Heka was believed to be the power by which the world was created, spoken into existence by the Creator God. It was the energy that animated the universe, allowing gods to perform their divine functions and humans to interact with the divine realm. So, when an Egyptian used magic, they weren't just reciting spells. They were tapping into this fundamental cosmic force, manipulating reality itself. It's like having access to the universe's operating system, but with more chanting and less rebooting. Every Egyptian, from the humblest farmer to the mighty pharaoh, engaged with magic in some form. Amulets were ubiquitous. You'd wear them daily for protection against evil, illness, or bad luck. The Eye of Horus was a popular choice, warding off the envious gaze of others. A scarab beetle symbolized rebirth and the rising sun. A jade pillar amulet represented stability and the backbone of Osiris. These weren't just pretty trinkets. They were active magical devices, infused with power through their form and the spells recited over them. Imagine your modern-day good luck charm, but with actual cosmic power. Spells were the spoken words of magic, carefully formulated incantations drawn from ancient texts or passed down through generations. These weren't just rhymes, they were precise linguistic formulas, believed to compel deities, spirits, or natural forces to act on your behalf. There were spells for healing, for protection during childbirth, for ensuring a good harvest, for warding off snakes, and most famously, for navigating the afterlife, as found in the Book of the Dead. Reciting a spell correctly, with the right intention and accompanying ritual, was paramount. It's like having a very specific command line prompt for the universe. Magic was practiced by various individuals. Priests were often skilled in ritual magic, performing ceremonies to invoke gods, purify temples, or bless offerings. Magicians, sometimes called lector priests or scribe of the sacred books, were experts in writing, deciphering, and applying spells, often employed by the pharaoh or wealthy individuals for specific needs. They were the consultants of the ancient world, but with more mystical abilities. You might hire one to protect your home, cure an ailment, or even interpret a troubling dream. Consider the medical practices of ancient Egypt. Many remedies involved a combination of practical medicine, herbs, bandages, surgery, with magical spells and amulets. A physician might treat a wound with a poultice while simultaneously reciting a spell to invoke the healing power of a god like Sekhmet or Isis. This blending of the practical and the magical was seamless. They weren't seen as separate disciplines. It's a mainstream historical fact that Egyptian medicine was remarkably advanced for its time, but always integrated with a magical worldview. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some magical spells involved incredibly specific ingredients and actions. One cure for baldness, for example, involved mixing the fat of a lion, a hippopotamus, a crocodile, a cat, a snake, and an ibex, then applying it to the scalp. While perhaps not effective for hair growth, it certainly sounds like a powerful magical concoction. Another might require you to whisper a spell into a piece of papyrus, then swallow the papyrus to absorb its power. Imagine explaining that to your doctor. Historians still argue whether the widespread belief in magic fostered a sense of empowerment among ordinary Egyptians, allowing them to feel they had some control over their destinies, or if it created a reliance on specialists and rituals that sometimes served to reinforce social hierarchies. Was it a tool for personal agency or social control? Regardless, the intricate system of magic, amulets, and spells demonstrates the deep connection Egyptians felt to the unseen forces of the universe and their constant endeavor to align themselves with those powers for benefit and protection. You come away with a sense that in ancient Egypt, every action, every object held the potential for magical resonance. Having explored the intimate weave of magic into daily life, you now step into the grand public spectacle of ancient Egypt, the major festivals and rituals. These weren't just holidays, they were vital, elaborate communal events, brimming with color, sound, and fervent belief, designed to honor the gods, reaffirm cosmic order, and celebrate the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. You can almost feel the pulse of the crowds, the scent of incense, and the thrum of ancient music. These festivals were usually tied to the natural rhythms of the Nile and the agricultural year. The most significant was the Opet festival, a vibrant annual procession held in Thebes, modern Luxor, celebrating the renewal of the divine kingship and the fertility of the land. The cult statues of Amun, Mut, and Khonsu would be carried in sacred barks, sometimes on the shoulders of priests, sometimes on barges towed along the Nile, moving between the Karnak and Luxor temples. Imagine the sight: a long, stately procession, priests chanting, musicians playing, crowds cheering, all under the brilliant Egyptian sun. It was a fusion of religious reverence and civic pride, a massive public holiday where everyone participated. This is a mainstream historical fact, vividly depicted in the reliefs on the Luxor temple. Another crucial festival was the Koyak festival, dedicated to Osiris, celebrating his death, resurrection, and the fertility he brought to the land. This solemn yet hopeful event involved rituals of mourning, the preparation of Osiris effigies made of earth and grain, symbolizing his role as god of vegetation, and their eventual burial and resurrection. It mirrored the agricultural cycle of planting and growth, reminding the Egyptians that out of death comes new life. You might witness the planting of these Osiris beds, feeling the connection between the fate of the god and the fate of the annual harvest. The Wadi festival, also known as the Beautiful Festival of the Valley, was a joyful reunion between the living and the dead. People would travel to the west bank of the Nile, where the necropolis and royal tombs were located, to picnic with their deceased relatives at their tombs. They would offer food and drink, perform rituals, and share stories, believing that the spirits of the dead could join them in their celebrations. It was a remarkable practice, bridging the gap between worlds, transforming grief into communal remembrance and joy. Imagine having a family barbecue right next to your great-great-grandparents' tomb, a different kind of family gathering. These festivals weren't just for show. They served crucial religious, social, and political functions. They reinforced the power of the pharaoh as the intermediary between gods and humans, reminded people of the gods' benevolence, and provided a sense of community and shared identity. They were also periods of intense spiritual activity when the veil between worlds felt thinner and communication with the divine was more accessible. Rituals permeated every level of society, from the grand temple ceremonies performed by the pharaoh and priests to the simple household offerings made by families. Daily temple rituals involved waking the cult statue of the god, cleansing it, dressing it, offering it food and drink, and then putting it to rest. These were intimate acts of devotion, performed behind closed doors by the priestly elite, ensuring the god's continued presence and favor in Egypt. Here's a quirky tidbit. During some festivals, particularly those dedicated to Hathor or Bastet, the celebrations could get quite boisterous, involving music, dancing, and even significant alcohol consumption. Herodotus, the Greek historian, famously described a festival at Bubastis, Bastet's cult center, where participants arrived by boat, singing, clapping, and drinking vast quantities of wine. It seems ancient Egyptians knew how to party with their gods, proving that piety didn't always mean solemnity. Historians still argue whether the elaborate and often costly public festivals truly fostered a deeper sense of popular religious fervor, or if they were primarily state-sponsored propaganda designed to unite a diverse population under the banner of the pharaoh and his gods. Did they genuinely inspire belief or merely compel participation? Regardless, the enduring remnants of these festivals, the temples, the inscriptions, the sheer volume of artifacts, speak to their profound and lasting impact on the lives of ancient Egyptians. You leave the scene with the echoes of their joyful shouts and solemn chants still ringing in your ears, a testament to a deeply religious society. As you journey through the millennia of Egyptian mythology, you begin to observe a fascinating phenomenon: the constant, sometimes subtle, sometimes dramatic influence of foreign cultures and their deities on the seemingly insular world of ancient Egypt. Egypt, despite its powerful self-image and unique religious system, was never truly isolated. Trade, conquest, and diplomacy brought new ideas, new peoples, and inevitably new gods, leading to a process known as syncretism. It's like watching a cosmic potluck, where everyone brings a dish, and sometimes they all blend into something new and interesting. From the earliest periods, Egypt had contact with its neighbors. The influx of peoples from the Near East, particularly during the Second Intermediate Period and later the New Kingdom, brought their own gods. For example, during the Hyksos rule, a foreign dynasty that controlled parts of Egypt, deities like Baal, a storm god, and Astarte, a goddess of fertility and war, from the Levant, gained popularity in the Delta region. Rather than outright replacing Egyptian gods, they were often assimilated or associated with similar Egyptian deities. Baal might be seen as a manifestation of Seth due to their shared association with storms, or Astarte could be linked to Sekhmet or Hathor. It's a mainstream historical fact that this cultural exchange was a continuous process throughout Egyptian history. During the New Kingdom, when Egypt expanded its empire into the Near East, Egyptian soldiers and administrators encountered local gods firsthand. Simultaneously, foreign merchants and workers settled in Egypt, bringing their religious practices with them. This wasn't just a one-way street. Egyptian deities also found their way into the pantheons of neighboring lands. For instance, the cult of Amun became widespread in Nubia, modern Sudan, where his temples were built and revered for centuries after Egyptian rule ended. The most profound period of syncretism, however, arguably came with the arrival of the Greeks and then the Romans. After Alexander the Great conquered Egypt in 332 BCE, the Ptolemaic dynasty, Greek rulers, sought to integrate Greek and Egyptian religious beliefs to foster unity in their new kingdom. They deliberately created new, hybrid deities that could appeal to both populations. The most famous example is Serapis, a composite god combining aspects of Osiris, fertility, underworld, and Apis, sacred bull, linked to Osiris, with Greek characteristics like Zeus and Hades. He was depicted as a Greek god with flowing hair and a beard, often accompanied by Cerberus, the three-headed dog. This was a conscious top-down attempt at religious fusion, proving that even gods could be subject to political strategy. Imagine a corporate merger, but with divine entities. Similarly, the cult of Isis spread widely throughout the Mediterranean world during the Hellenistic and Roman periods, becoming one of the most popular deities in the Roman Empire. Temples to Isis could be found as far afield as Britain, and her worship often incorporated aspects of local goddesses. Her powerful image as a universal mother goddess, skilled in magic and resurrection, resonated deeply with non-Egyptians. You can imagine the quiet, powerful presence she brought to the bustling Roman streets. Here's a quirky tidbit. In some instances, even non-divine figures from foreign lands found a place in Egyptian reverence. Imhotep, the brilliant vizier and architect of the first pyramid, Djoser's step pyramid, was later deified as a god of medicine and wisdom. His cult was popular among both Egyptians and Greeks, who identified him with their god of medicine, Asclepius. So, not only did gods travel, but brilliant mortals could also achieve divine status across cultures. Historians still argue whether this process of syncretism was a sign of religious flexibility and tolerance, allowing different cultures to coexist peacefully, or if it represented a gradual erosion of traditional Egyptian beliefs, ultimately contributing to their decline. Did it enrich or dilute their faith? Regardless, the intermingling of deities and beliefs created a fascinating, dynamic religious landscape that reflects the interconnectedness of the ancient world. You see how even the most ancient and established pantheon could absorb new energies and ideas, shaping its own evolution over thousands of years. The gods, it seems, were quite open to new friends. As you move through the long corridors of time, the vibrant light of ancient Egyptian mythology, which has illuminated millennia, begins to dim. The period of decline is not a sudden blackout, but a gradual fading, a slow shift as foreign influences become overwhelming, and the unique religious traditions of Egypt finally give way to new dominant faiths. However, even in its twilight, the legacy of Egyptian mythology continues to cast a long, enduring shadow. You feel a sense of melancholy, witnessing the slow setting of a once brilliant sun. The decline of ancient Egyptian religion was a complex process, spanning centuries. It wasn't because the gods suddenly abandoned them or that people stopped believing overnight. Rather, it was a combination of political, economic, and cultural factors. The successive conquests by powerful empires, the Assyrians, Persians, Greeks, Ptolemies, and finally the Romans, brought different ruling classes with their own religious practices and priorities. While some conquerors, like the early Ptolemies, initially respected and even adopted Egyptian traditions, others, like the Persians, were more dismissive. This is a mainstream historical fact. External political pressures played a significant role in the weakening of traditional Egyptian cults. Under Roman rule, particularly after the defeat of Cleopatra VII and Mark Antony in 30 BCE, Egypt became a Roman province. While some Egyptian cults, like that of Isis, actually flourished in the Roman Empire, the Roman emperors rarely invested in Egyptian temples on the same scale as the pharaohs or Ptolemies. The economic support for the traditional priesthoods dwindled, and the elaborate rituals became harder to maintain. The focus shifted from the grand state-sponsored worship to more private, individual expressions of faith. The most significant challenge, however, came with the rise and spread of Christianity. Initially a persecuted minority, Christianity gradually gained adherents within Egypt, particularly among the lower classes. Its monotheistic message, emphasis on a singular God and promise of salvation, offered a compelling alternative to the complex, polytheistic Egyptian system. As Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire in the 4th century CE, the persecution of pagan cults intensified. Temples were closed, statues of gods were defaced or destroyed, and the practice of traditional Egyptian religion was actively suppressed. The last known hieroglyphic inscription dates to 394 CE, a stark symbol of the end of a writing system intrinsically linked to the old religion. Imagine the clash, a long-standing tradition of thousands of gods, animal worship, and elaborate afterlife preparations, suddenly confronted by a fervent new faith demanding exclusive devotion. It wasn't an easy transition, and elements of Egyptian belief, such as the veneration of saints or the emphasis on the afterlife, may have subtly influenced early Egyptian Christianity, Coptic Christianity. Yet ultimately, the ancient gods receded into myth, replaced by the cross. Here's a quirky tidbit. Despite the official suppression, some traditional Egyptian religious practices persisted in isolated rural areas for centuries after the rise of Christianity, often blending with folk magic or finding underground expression. It's like finding a secret speakeasy for ancient gods in the middle of a desert, long after the general public has moved on. Local traditions can be remarkably resilient, even when faced with overwhelming change. Historians still argue whether the decline of Egyptian religion was primarily due to the inherent rigidity of its polytheistic system, which struggled to adapt to changing philosophical and political landscapes, or if it was simply a casualty of external forces, specifically the rise of monotheistic religions backed by powerful empires. Was it internal stagnation or external conquest that sealed its fate? Regardless, by the 6th century CE, the ancient Egyptian religion, as a widespread, publicly practiced system, had largely vanished, its temples crumbling, its hieroglyphs unread. Yet, its legacy is undeniable. The pyramids still stand, the temples still awe, and the stories of Osiris, Isis, and Horus continue to captivate. Their profound understanding of life, death, and resurrection, their artistic achievements, and their enduring symbols have permeated Western culture and beyond. You realize that while the active worship may have ceased, The spirit of Egyptian mythology never truly died. It simply transformed, waiting to be rediscovered. As the echoes of the ancient festivals fade and the last hieroglyphs are carved, you might feel a pang of sadness for a world that has passed. Yet, the true power of mythology's whisper is that it never truly disappears. It simply transforms, resonating across time and culture, leaving eternal echoes in the modern world. The story of Egyptian mythology isn't just a bedtime history of a bygone era. It's a testament to enduring human questions, fears, and hopes that still speak to us today. You lean back, allowing the final threads of this incredible narrative to weave themselves into your consciousness. Think of the enduring fascination with ancient Egypt. Why do we still flock to museums to gaze upon sarcophagi, decipher hieroglyphs, and marvel at the pyramids? Because these myths provided answers, however ancient, to universal human dilemmas. The struggle of Osiris and Seth still speaks to the eternal conflict between order and chaos, good and evil, a theme that pervades literature, film, and even our daily news. The unwavering devotion of Isis resonates with the power of maternal love and resilience against all odds. These aren't just quaint stories. They are archetypes etched into the collective human psyche. The very concept of a spiritual journey after death, with judgment and the hope of eternal life, has found parallels in countless religions that followed. While the specifics differ wildly, the fundamental human desire for meaning beyond mortality and the idea of consequences for one's actions in life are powerful legacies of the Egyptian worldview. The weighing of the heart against the feather of Ma'at, for instance, finds echoes in various concepts of divine judgment in later faiths. It's a mainstream historical fact that Egyptian funerary practices and beliefs about the afterlife significantly influenced later Western thought, particularly early Christianity. Even in our secular world, the symbols of Egyptian mythology persist. The Eye of Horus appears in modern jewelry and tattoos, often without its wearers fully grasping its ancient meaning of protection and good health. Scarab beetles adorn fashion accessories, symbolizing rebirth and renewal. These powerful ancient images have transcended their original religious context to become timeless emblems of universal human desires. You can almost see them shimmering in the modern landscape, subtle reminders of a deep past. Consider the narrative structure itself, the hero's journey, the epic quest, the battle against overwhelming odds, the loss and subsequent resurrection. These are all elements masterfully crafted within the Egyptian myths. These narrative patterns became foundational for storytelling across cultures, proving that the ancient Egyptians were not just theologians, but master storytellers. They understood how to captivate an audience, how to instill wonder and fear and hope, and how to leave a lasting impression. Here's a quirky tidbit. The fascination with Egyptian mythology experienced a significant resurgence in the 19th and early 20th centuries, fueled by archaeological discoveries like the decipherment of the Rosetta Stone and the finding of Tutankhamun's tomb. This period, often called Egyptomania, led to Egyptian motifs appearing in architecture, fashion, and even popular entertainment, proving that even centuries later, the allure of the pharaohs and their gods could capture the global imagination. It's a bit like a really long-running reality TV show that keeps finding new audiences. Historians still argue whether the lasting influence of Egyptian mythology is a testament to its inherent spiritual profundity or simply a matter of its impressive material legacy. The enduring monuments that literally force their beliefs upon subsequent generations. Was it the strength of the ideas or the sheer scale of the pyramids that ensured their immortality? Regardless, the intricate cosmology, the rich pantheon of gods, and the deeply human dramas embedded within these myths continue to inspire scholars, artists, and dreamers. As you drift now towards the peaceful realms of sleep, let the whispers of the Nile, the rustle of papyrus, and the silent majesty of the pyramids gently envelop you. Remember the cosmic waters of Nun, the vibrant dance of Ma'at, and the eternal journey of the sun across the sky and through the underworld. These stories, born in the dawn of civilization, remind us that humanity's quest for meaning, for order, and for an understanding of its place in the cosmos is a timeless endeavor. The gods may have gone silent, but their stories resonate, soft and clear, in the quiet spaces of your imagination. You close your eyes, content in the knowledge that you've traveled through a universe of wonders,